Gold and silver prices have seen a great rebound, and so did the mining stocks. Is that already the pathway to new highs in our industry? Is it the end of the downtrend already, or is it just a little bit of a dead cat bounce? Today we're talking with Greg Johnson. He is the CEO of Metallic Minerals, a copper, silver, and also critical minerals exploration company out of Canada. And I'm really looking forward to our conversation because Greg is a real company builder in our universe. He was one of the founders of Nova Gold, which is a well-known and multi-billion-dollar company nowadays, and he was one of the founders. So he knows how to make a small cap company to something very big. He is very familiar with the markets, and he knows how to talk with the big guys. And today he's talking to us. Greg, thank you very much for your time. I'm looking forward to our interview.
Yeah, Jan, it's great to be back again with you.
So let's give us a little bit of a macro perspective about metallic minerals in detail. We have seen that tremendous gold price increase from 2,000 to 5,000, 5,500 US dollar even. Now we're back at 4,000 and everybody tells me mining industry, precious metals industry, everything is dead. It's just not going to work out anymore. Is it? Do you have the same understanding and opinion on the markets right now?
Yeah, we've just gone through a significant pullback, a consolidation, a bull cycle. And I think that we really are just getting started in this cycle. So let's step back, Jan, and really look at the really big picture. The sector is characterized by these long cycles, 7 years up, 6 to 10 years or so down, big bottoming periods when the whole sector, no one is interested in the sector, causes a whole change in the sector in terms of the large producers. They cut their costs, they improve their balance sheet, they start to tighten up. Then as this whole thing is being driven by supply-demand dynamics, so when there's too much metal, prices sag, and that's really what you see directed into company valuations. Company valuations really are a reflection, day to day, of what the profit would be for a mining company, based on today's metal price. And so that's why you see gold goes up, the price of a gold company goes up, and when gold goes down, it goes down same day. Is that kind of real-time emphasis. So if we set the big picture, last cycle peaked in 2010, 2011 for the entire commodity complex. And that cycle, we have been in a bear market since that period. So big period down from 2011 all the way to the very first low was in 2016. We had another low in 2020, and then we had another low in 2023, 2024. And we are just now coming out of, particularly for the junior sector, the explorer developers, a generational bear market. One of the longest and deepest bear markets we've seen. It has only been in the last 12 to 18 months that the mining sector has been responding to that supply-demand signal that metal prices were moving higher, which means the market is signaling we need more metal. And because there's not been exploration during the bear market, we don't have new mines. And one of the reasons why the mining sector, oil and gas and other resource sectors go through these big cycles is it's a long timeline to go from discovery to production. So even when the metal prices start to move, the market is just not able to go out and increase production. It takes years. And so that's why you get this period. So if we look at the large cap producers, they hit their lows when gold retraced to 1900 from 1900 to 1000. The large caps cut in half or more. And now they've rebounded, reflecting the fact that we're at double the gold price from last cycle and more. Interestingly, though, the junior sector, which is the growth for the mining industry, so the explorer developers are still 1/3 of their highs from the last cycle. So even though all the growth for the mining industry comes from these junior companies, they are still trading at 1/3 of their level last cycle when gold was much lower prices. The large caps have doubled in value from last cycle because metal prices have doubled. So there's a tremendous value opportunity today in the explorer developers. And in the last 8 to 9 months, as you mentioned, metal prices got a little ahead of themselves in December, January period. We saw new all-time highs in almost all the metals, and we've been going through a consolidation or a retracement in the whole sector. So the opportunity that's given is when you have those pullbacks like that in the sector, everything, the producers and the small ones pull back, and we've been basically living through that. Layer on that on a shorter term basis, we have what we call a seasonality pattern in the metals. And that tends to be that metals are weak in the spring to early summer, so May, June, July, and they tend to strengthen into the fall and early winter. So we're just coming out of one of the lowest, kind of more negative parts of the metal price seasonality, and we're starting to move into that more positive seasonality. So right now, everything is looking quite good. That one, great value opportunity, whether you're looking at a producer, whether you're looking at an explorer developer today. And as we start to go into the fall, that should be supportive of higher prices and moving into the next major leg of this bull market that really is only a year or 18 months in total length. So I think to answer your original question, this is early days. We've seen leg one. This is likely going to be, if history is any judge here, it's likely to be a 6 to 10 year cycle. And there's many analysts out there who are actually saying the ground has been set for an even longer and stronger commodity cycle this time than in the past. And part of that is some of the themes we're hearing people talk about: the lack of critical minerals, the need to rebuild, the developed world's industrial capacity, the need to build up grid capacity for things like data centers, et cetera. So the demand for metals has never looked stronger in terms of that outlook. And yet we're just coming out of one of the biggest and deepest bear markets the sector has seen. So that means we don't have new deposits waiting in the wings to come on stream. There's a real scarcity of high quality deposits, no matter which metal you're looking at. And this is a tremendous opportunity, particularly with this last 8 to 9 month pullback, for investors who are just either starting to look at the sector or they've already taken their first investment and they're looking for an entry level. This is looking like this is a great setup for taking that next position.
That's very interesting, Greg. And just to add something real quick, you talked about the demand side. We have a big demand coming on stream with everything that's going on from AI, data centers, whatsoever, and all the materials. We also have the demand, the domestic demand, because the west and the eastern part of the world are not really working together anymore as they used to do. But we also have the supply side, which is really lagging, as you just said, because if nobody's investing into exploration, you won't have new mines. So you have everything coming together, basically, the perfect storm, as you would like to say. But still, the interest remains low for now in our industry, and that's usually a good point to get a position in exciting companies. But let's switch a little bit to the western side of the world, to the US. We have seen that the new US government has brought real, let's say, traction to the critical materials topic. Right? We have seen that the US is actually investing into rare earth stocks, for example. We have seen a big run there as well. And now it seems like we've gone a little bit more quiet. You work in the US. You have actually a project called La Plata. It's a copper exploration project. You also have Newmont on your share register, one of the largest copper and gold producers on the planet. And you work in a critical materials district, also called La Plata. So give us an idea, as someone who is working closely in the US and with the US, is the excitement for critical materials gone? Or is it just a little bit also waiting for the big storm?
Yeah, I think there's been a broad recognition globally by the Western world, but particularly by the US, that there is a need to rebuild these supply chains and to have secure supply of these critical materials, minerals, elements that basically go into technology and, energy transition, defense, et cetera. And it's recognized that by allowing all of that processing to move to China, that was a strategic problem, right? And now we've got the Chinese basically holding back some of those really key elements. So the US government has defined about 60 elements as critical, but within that, there's about 20 elements that are you'd call them almost hypercritical, right? The real priority elements. These are the ones that are almost 100% reliance on importation into the US. So the US government has focused on those, and they basically are now looking at ways. It took them a bit, as you said, there was some early money that went into rare earths and a couple of things, particularly established producers. And now I think what you've seen is a bit of a pause because it was recognition, oh, the mining industry is different than a factory that is easy to just build out your production. We have to do the drilling, the engineering, the study. So there's a timeline involved, there's a workflow. And I think what the government's been doing is really recognizing, okay, how can we best incentivize these companies to go out and accelerate the process to bring new critical mineral supplies, to market. So a project like La Plata with over 1 billion pounds of copper and enrichment in 13 of those 20 critical minerals on the US government priority list would stand out as an opportunity. There's a real scarcity of projects like that, like a handful in the entire US. And so a project like that would be an opportunity through potential accelerator funding or other mechanisms to be able to advance that. We just recently announced that the Department of Energy has awarded a grant to the Colorado School of Mines, where Metallic Minerals is partnering on some new AI technology to help with exploration and advancement to shorten timelines and to make new discoveries. And we're super excited about that work, which will also be in collaboration with the USGS and the Colorado Geological Survey. But this is an indication of the seriousness that the government is taking and that they're willing to really put money behind these kinds of initiatives. And it's something that we've needed in the industry, quite honestly, because of the bear market. The mining sector in general kind of has been forgotten about. And now over the last couple of years, it's this awakening. We have to support exploration. We have to streamline permitting to make it reasonable. Still important to have those high standards, but to make it so that it's not so bureaucratic. And we're seeing bipartisan support for all of those changes. And I think investors should be on the alert that they're going to probably see more announcements here, I think, over the coming 6 months with some new thinking in terms of how do we advance these things, and particularly moving into the explorer developers, because that's where the future production is going to come from. It's taking projects that are, have a resource and being able to aid those to move, towards advanced feasibility and eventually into production.
Oh, that sounds very good and very supportive. And let's talk a little bit more about Metallic Minerals as a company itself. Just a full disclosure, I have to do it by law. I have shares in the company, and we also work together in the German-speaking markets. Greg, of course, you also have shares in the company, so I think that's for sure. Let's talk a little bit more on the details. I mean, you have 3 projects, I would say. We have the La Plata copper project, where you have your initial resource on. Then we have a high-grade silver project and resource in the Yukon, close to Hecla. And we also have alluvial golds, where we have gold miners mining for us, if you like, in a royalty program. Give us a little bit of a heads up on all those projects. Where are we at, and what can investors expect from Metallic over the next, let's say, towards the end of this year?
Yeah, so we just completed a financing here this summer, which was well received in terms of new investors coming in, existing shareholders also coming in, and Newmont. We just announced that Newmont has taken their 5th investment in the company. So super excited to be working with them. Their focus is on the La Plata project in the US, copper plus precious metals and critical minerals. And we've got a technical committee that meets about quarterly. They're providing technical support as a strategic investor. They're just a little over a 9% level, so very significant in terms of their participation on that project. And what we all see at La Plata is not only is the current resource have a lot of room to grow, but that we've got multiple potential other porphyry centers on that district scale property that could be new discoveries that could be similar in size or larger to the current resource. And so I think we're excited. I think Newmont sees the potential similarities with La Plata and projects like the Cadia mine in Australia and the Red Chris mine in British Columbia as example models for what we may have there. So, over the next 12 to 18 months, we're looking at a significant drill program that's going to be looking at resource expansion at the Allard resource at La Plata, but testing some of those 2 or 3 highest priority targets where we have high grade copper, precious metal, critical mineral at surface in our host rocks, but undrill tested. So those are super exciting targets in terms of new potential discoveries. And we're quite excited about getting all the groundwork in place. The second project that you mentioned is our Keno Silver project. And this really stands out as one of the premier silver camps in the world. It is now under Hecla's production, Canada's largest primary silver producer, over 3 million ounces a year. Hecla is referring to it as a core asset as they're ramping up to commercial production. And Metallic Minerals has basically consolidated the rest of the silver district in and adjacent to Hecla. We have 4 resources that we've already defined. And what's exciting here is Hecla's mining high-grade underground deposits. They're high grade, but they're higher cost. On Metallics Mineral, we're starting right at surface. Many of our holes are relatively shallow, and we've got the opportunity for open pit, scalable, low-cost production. We announced our first resource on this project, Jan, back in 2024 when silver was $20 an ounce. Today, silver is $60 an ounce. So we're now looking at some of these deposits and saying these are potentially open pittable. So now you can look at lower cutoff grades for your silver, and at a triple in metal price relative to our last studies. That's a real opportunity to significantly grow those resources. So right now, planning is underway for a near-term drill program, late summer, early fall, to get in, particularly around those existing resource areas, and really build out the resource and update it, reflecting current thinking and current metal price regime. So I'm quite excited about that drill campaign that we're going to be kicking off soon at Keno Silver. And then lastly, a little bit unusual for an explorer developer is we are actually an active producing royalty company. And so we are one of the largest holders of placer claims or alluvial mining claims in the Yukon. We had 1 operator up until this year producing, and we produce about $1 million worth of gold over the last couple of years just from that royalty. No risk. They produce the gold and they hand us over our 10 or 15% of the production. So it's like a classic royalty model. We've now got 2 operators. The first operator is more than doubled their throughput, so we're expecting much higher production from them this year. We've got a second operator who's ramping up, and then we've got a third operator that's coming on board. So this is something where we got room to grow this. It brings in non-dilutive cash flow. It's effectively like a financing for a junior, miner, and we're getting that exposure to these rising metal prices that we believe the macro indicates that we're just early in this cycle, and that can be appreciation. So we tend to take the gold in and hold it into our accounts and to benefit from that appreciation in the future.
Perfect. Sounds like we are going to have a lot of news flow over the next 6 to 12 months, and I'm really looking forward to that. Let's say at the end, Greg, for let's say a new investor who just discovered metallic minerals, what would be your 3 main reasons to take a position as of today?
Yeah, so as we started at the top, right now is an excellent time in the market. Even some of the very largest companies like Agnico Eagle are well off of their all-time highs. And so the whole sector has come on sale from this 8 to 9 month consolidation. So it's a great time to be looking at high quality resources. Most professional investors recommend that you take a basket approach. Don't just own one name. And as an exploration geologist, my recommendation for investors is, it's a lot lower risk to take something that already has a significant resource established, because that the probability that they're going to be able to keep advancing that and growing is much higher. It's super high risk at the pre-resource stage. So a basket of companies, high quality, take advantage of this current market pullback, which is really a gift in terms of coming in. And on metallic minerals specifically, knowing that we've pulled back with the sector, we're trading at half of our previous higher levels when gold prices were over enthusiastic in December and January. Newmont's just come in at a premium to market. This is a great opportunity to be picking up shares in this current market, knowing there's news flow and knowing that we've just come out of this consolidation.
Perfect. Greg, thank you so much for our interview. I think it was very good. Looking forward to have an update again with you soon and to see all the news flow coming out over the next few weeks and months. Thanks for your time and good luck with the developments of the company.
Thanks a lot. Look forward to keeping you posted on our progress.